Coming in Hot is presented by Botano. The game starts now. Here are your hosts, Brent Wallace, Jason York, and Bobby Ryan.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm Brent Wallace alongside Jason York and Bobby Ryan. I continue to have this, I called it a man cold, but I actually went to the doctor and got some prescription for something. So it's getting worse by the day. I don't know what it is. Anyway, if I start into a coughing fit, you two take over the show. Maybe I should just let you two do it anyway.
Yeah. We're going to go off the rails real quick.
As long as we fixed our technical difficulties from yesterday. Good thing we got on 20 minutes early today.
Say anything about the let's jinx it. Let it go. This show is always brought to you by Botano.ca. There was stuff in the chat yesterday about that I wasn't a big enough fan of the Sens. So just to prove to you how big a fan I am, it's show and tell time. I have an Ottawa Senator garden gnome. And I don't know how many people own one, but I own a garden gnome. So there. That should prove it.
You put us in our place.
So take that. Wally. You can't let him Wally, you can't let him get to you like that. You got to show your garden gnome. Like, come on, be tougher than that.
I'm going to call him G.
There you go. I like it. I like it.
Yeah. Troy Mann is standing by, the head coach of the Belleville Senators. We'll get to him momentarily. This show is always brought to you by Renfrew Pro Tape. Go to renfrewpro.com. Check out all they have to offer, all kinds of different tapes. You can get custom-made tapes as well. Follow them on Instagram. They have Free Tape Friday as a giveaway stuff. Feel the game with Renfrew Pro. They are the ones with the green core. It's actually a Canadian Tire today picking up some Renfrew Pro tape. They are the worldwide leaders when it comes to hockey tape and can be found everywhere, including the Belleville Senator locker room. And for that, let's bring in Troy Mann, head coach of the Belleville Senators. Troy, welcome. How are you today?
Excellent, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Do you own a garden gnome?
Absolutely not.
That's my hard-hitting question for the day.
There you go. Good start, Wally.
Way to bring it.
Yeah, I'm dialed in. Troy, I'm going to start with, it's probably been a long year. And the only reason I say that is you went through a stretch where I think you had 9, if not more, and you can tell me what the number is, of how many guys you had out of the lineup at one point, all due to injury. Like, it's been a phenomenal year. 4 guys have played in all 42 games for you this year.
Yeah, it's been a difficult season when it comes to that, with the roster fluctuation and just trying to piece it together. As Ryan Bonus says to me, it's one day at a time, and it's obviously a double-edged sword when the Sens are going through it as well. We went through it early, like where we had up to 11 regulars out of the lineup, and the Sens were relatively healthy, and then we started getting the odd guy back, and then all of a sudden it started up there as well. So, they're finally getting healthy, and we're getting a little bit healthy, but we'll see, if we can make a little bit of a push here in the next 30 games to try and slide into that, final spot. As you guys know, it's in the AHL, there's so much divisional play, so you can make up a lot of ground, unlike the NHL where, sometimes this time of year is just with no divisional play or the odd divisional game, it's just impossible to make up points. But for us, it's a little bit different. So we'll see here as we continue to move forward.
Well, we'll ask the obvious question first here, Manor. Ridly Greig, are you surprised that he came out of the gates this hot and is doing this well? It's tough. It's a tough league, as we know, to play in. But are you surprised?
Well, I think not from a skill perspective and a hockey IQ and all those intangibles, because those are all excellent parts of his game. I think we were a little bit worried about just his natural size. He's not a very big kid, and as a 20-year-old, he's still got a lot of room to grow into that body. And I know the organization has him on a plan. He came in, I think last year he played at like 170 or 171, and then he started the year at 180 for us, and the goal was to get him to 190 by September of 23. So there is a plan in place to continue to get stronger, because as you know, it's just a bigger, stronger league. So, but in terms of the success he's had in making plays and being responsible defensively and being in your face type of player, that's not surprising. I guess the biggest question will be, can he continue to do it, over the course of, tonight? And then obviously there's the break. And I suspect, based on his performance, that he's going to go back to, be part of the Sens once they come off their bye week. But, that'll be the test, right, as the grind begins.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess just to follow up on that, Manor, we talked about him a little bit, and obviously we know less about him than you do, but where do you see him long-term fitting into the lineup? Is he going to be a 2 or a 3 center? Is he going to be a guy that could shift to the wing? Because I don't have the background on him, and we're trying to watch games and trying to assess what he could be, because he looks like he's got some skill, but he's also got some bite. So he's got everything, just trying to figure out where he slots.
Well, I think, when you start looking at the Sens, it's an area of strength when you got Stützle, who's a superstar, and Josh Norris, obviously. So there is some depth up the middle. I think if he turns into be a 2 center, you're pretty ecstatic, and if he's your 3, I mean, that's pretty impressive as well. He has not played a ton of wing. We had talked to him earlier in the year about how much wing he's played, and really the only time he's seen any kind of wing is at the World Juniors, when they're kind of moving centers around. And but other than that, his whole career's been at center. Now, as you guys know, it's easier to move a center to wing than try and convert a winger to center. But he's just so good at being a 200-foot player, and he's nasty down low, and he's good on faceoffs. That to me is tough to move out of the middle ice position. But I guess if you got a lot of strength up the middle, ultimately someone would have to move. So, whether it's him, that's not my decision. But I know he has not played any kind of wing except for those small little tournaments or in at the World Juniors within the training camp itself. And because, as we've seen, he played both World Juniors, he played center.
Right.
What's he like to coach? And by that, I mean, there are some players, you tell me, that show up to the A that don't think they should be there and think they should be in the NHL and all that stuff. Give me an idea of what his attitude's been like since he's arrived.
Well, he's a very quiet person, and but you can joke with him pretty good in terms of, you could go into the lounge, he's got a pretty good routine. He comes in every morning, loves his peanut butter and bagel, and, he'll say good morning, and he'll mumble something out of the side of his mouth, but he goes about his business, like any young player. He needs to, the routine in the gym and, his activation and all that. He has to be kind of guided like most 20-year-olds, but very, very low maintenance and very coachable. And we just set up a schedule for him with Ben Sexton, for example, in terms of the individual video. And, some guys like to come in every game. Some guys like to just maybe every 3 games and like a Angus Cruikshank or a Sokolov or a Reinhardt. Those guys are in with Sexy, watching their shifts every morning after a game, where Ridly Greig's more of a 3-gamer type guy. So that's just a little bit of his laid back personality, but he's a great kid, and it was a pleasure to coach so far.
You mentioned the weight part of it, of putting on weight. That's got to be tough, man, because once you start the grind, I know how hard it is to play in the American League. So that's got to be, is he just one of those guys that's naturally, he plays and you lose 6-7 pounds and you're always in that yo-yo battle of trying to keep it on?
Well, they do have a plan for him in terms of trying to, with protein and that type of thing, but he's such a lean kid to start with. So he's, he, with his shirt off, it may say 180, but to be honest with you, he looks like about $160, because he's just so lean. But, he's a competitive kid out there. There's no doubt. and that's why you love him as a coach, and he's a little bit of a predator out there too. He'll take on all comers regardless of the size, and when he gets upset on the ice too, like he has no problem two-handing a guy behind the ref's back out there, and those are just things you love about him.
Absolutely, it's great. Hey, his job was a lot easier than mine. Trying to put weight on. I was counting calories every day. I would love to switch places with him.
Good problem.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to have bagels and peanut butter. That's for sure.
The sun butter stuff.
That's it.
A couple of players you mentioned, I want to ask you about a few of them. One of them being Jake Lucchini. And the reason I want to ask about him is he's waited so long to get that call up to the NHL. What was that moment like? Did you get to tell him? And I guess, was the excitement level for him pretty good?
Yeah, those are, as much as it's trying to get, the draft picks up, and, the guys like Ridly Greig are going to go at some point. Those are good stories as well, right? I mean, we basically got Lucchini for $1 at a time when we were desperate for forwards, and Angus Crookshank had just lost his season to the knee injury, and we were able to, as you guys know, some of the teams with a lot of financial clout can sign more players, as Montreal, Toronto, as examples, and Laval had some couple extra bodies and wanted to help out, Lucchini, for example, get playing time, certainly at his age too. He wasn't like a 20-year-old or a 21-year-old that was going to be buying time. And he came in and was a great fit for us, very coachable, very versatile in terms of his positioning, and just got off to a great start, and this year as well, him and Chartier were arguably our best two forwards out of the gate this year. And, both were well-deserved call-ups in terms of being first deserving, and that's one thing we've tried to do here is, you want to reward the prospects, but if someone else like a Lucchini or a Chartier are your best players or most consistent players, and ultimately that's what you're looking for, then why not, they get an opportunity. So for him to go up and play, I think it was 11 games and get his first NHL goal, those are also great stories from a coaching perspective down here.
Can you tell me what that conversation was like?
Yeah, Ryan Bonas made the initial call, and then I called him. He was already on his way to Ottawa. It was a quick turnaround for him, but it's always much better face to face because then you can see the actual reaction. But he was pumped and very thankful. Obviously, he went with the Pittsburgh organization and then also Laval, and those two situations didn't work out. And for us, it's been a good fit. And, so he was very appreciative of not only the opportunity we've given him here in Belleville, but also, just to get that call and get an opportunity up there.
Yeah, got to be great for the culture, knowing when you work hard, you're going to get rewarded. Speaking of guys that work hard, and I've heard you talk before about Jacob Bernard-Docker, about his character, leadership abilities. Everyone in Ottawa is talking about the defense here, that there's a need for a right shot defenseman. I really liked watching Docker, just in the small sample size. So I guess the question I have for you is, how long do you think it's going to be in his development that he's going to be that guy? Because it looks to me he's got the capability to be a top four guy, but as we all know, it takes time. What do you think, Manor, as far as the chart he's on right now? You watch him play, you watch him practice every day, you're watching him go. How long do you think his development curve is going to be before he can be a guy that is potentially that top four guy?
Yeah, it's hard to tell or hard to say. The two guys that we get asked the most about now are Bernard-Docker and Lassie Thompson. And as I said to someone last week, I just look, for example, at the Toronto situation, where Liljegren and Sandin are doing pretty well right now. And, I coached against Liljegren for 4 years, and that's a first rounder that spent 4 years practically in the American League, and Sandin 2 years, so the development curve is different for everybody. And both those guys are first rounders for the Leafs. So I think it's, maybe because the Leafs are at a different stage of their, with their program in the NHL maybe a little bit different than Ottawa right now. We're trying to maybe rush these guys where, being down here and playing games and playing big minutes, like Bernard Docker's playing 24 minutes a night for us, and first over the boards on the PK, and out against the other team's top lines. And, ultimately, I think that's what has to take place once he solidifies himself in the NHL. And there's always room to get stronger, and there's always room to be a better puck mover. And, I think those are the things we're trying to continue to build on, because I think we've certainly seen flashes when he goes up to Ottawa, what he can do and what he can bring to the table long term. So, this time he came down and was told to play games and play minutes, and that's what we're doing. And, whether he goes back this year or not, I guess that's for someone else to determine, but we're going to continue to build his game. And he's very, very coachable, and that's obviously very, very important as well, right? And to say he's going to be there next year, it's hard to say, but I look at some other kids, defensemen specifically in the NHL, and sometimes it's 2 years, sometimes it's 4. And, I coached against Lilligren way back when I was in Hershey, and when he came over as a 19-year-old, and it's taken a long time for him. And, now that when you watch a Leaf game, he looks pretty solid out there. And I probably wouldn't have said that 5 years ago, right? So I think patience is probably the best thing I would tell anybody when it comes to JBD and Thompson specifically as well.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
I remember
mentioned that
was.
Go ahead. Sorry,
Bobby.
I was just going to. You said the word. We'll get that. We'll work through this. You go first.
Yeah. No, I remember watching. You mentioned Lilligren there, Manor. I watched him. I'm like, wow, that guy's a first rounder. But just goes to show you, like, he was awful coming in, and now watching him, it's just confident. I played 3-4 years in the minors. Took me, and it's just you see people here in Ottawa, the expectations, they want it so bad. They got to understand it's a process, man, especially being a defenseman. So
yeah, absolutely. And I remember as the head coach in Hershey, when we do our pre-scouts against the Marlies, we'd tell them, hey, when you put that puck to space and go into Lilligren's corner, he's going to turn that baby over, because he turns him over with the best of them. And that's the truth, like from watching the Marlies play back then. And this is a first rounder that's looks pretty good out there now. So yeah. I think it's patience, and Thompson's the same. He's faced a lot of adversity, Thompson, with some injuries, and coming over, the year he played overseas in Finland. There wasn't a lot of, he was playing with men's league. Yeah, sometimes that's good, but sometimes when you're not getting minutes and you're not getting individual video, maybe are you better off playing in the dub or coming to Belleville earlier to get that one-on-one time that we do so much of here. So it's just, like I say, I feel like I'm repeating this to some degree, but patience with these two guys, because I think they're both going to be players. I just don't know when.
Yeah, well, that was you said the word 3 times, and that was the one that you almost want these guys to over marinate, because I know that, the community of Ottawa and the fans want to rush it because they want that strong right-handed defenseman that are so coveted. But if you can't rush that process and let those guys over marinate, play the minutes they're playing. But I've also been a guy that said, put them in, just put them in. You're out of the playoffs. So I go both ways with that thing, but I do ultimately, when you're talking about the player and their development curve, over marinating is what you want to see.
Yeah. So, it'll be interesting as time moves forward here, what takes place. But for now, Thompson's back now healthy, and he just come off a 6-week injury. So he played 2 games on the weekend, and I thought his game on Saturday was a little bit better than Friday. And we just have to be patient before he gets his game back. And, so hopefully he can stay healthy and finish strong with 30 solid games. And JBD is the same, and if they get recalled for an opportunity, whether it's, sometime in February or after the trade deadline, great on them. And hopefully they make an impression. And if not, we'll do our very best to make sure they're as developed as possible by the time our season ends, and then see what takes place come the fall.
Another player I'd like to ask you about, and you brought up Sokolov. He's your team leading scorer, 12 goals, 38 points. He's yet to get called up this season. I do know General Manager Pierre Dorian did say that perhaps that Sokolov will get 5 to 10 games by the end of this year. Do you sense a little frustration from Igor of not getting the call because of and in Ottawa struggling, they look for answers and maybe a spark by having somebody else come up. How's Igor handling the season?
It's I always say the third year, and let me preface this by saying Sokolov's a fantastic kid, so it's not a character flaw or issue, but I always say in the American League, the third year pro are the toughest to coach. And only because, the first year when they get sent down on their entry level, it's, we're down here to learn, we're here to get better. And, not that they don't think about call-ups, but they're more about refining their game and learning the pro game, specifically when they come out of major junior. In the second year, a little bit of the same. And that third year, then they start to question, especially when they're having success, well, why isn't it me getting called up? Or they start to ask more questions when it comes to that recall. And quite frankly, we had a heart-to-heart with Sokolov right around the Chartier and Lucchini call-up, and because he was very disappointed then. And we just flat out was honest with him. Like, those two guys have been more consistent than you, and that's just the bottom line, and you got to be honest with the player. And we were, and he's been, at the time he had a point a game, but point a game really doesn't mean anything, even though he's an offensive guy, if you know what I mean. Like, you can, and Ryan, you can tell, you can get your cookies on the power play and get the second assist, and the point totals still look good in the media or on the, when you pull up AHL.com, geez, that guy's a point a game player. But what type of goals are you scoring? What type of assist are you having? And and he wasn't moving his feet defensively. And I think he's done a much, much better job of that since those recalls. And now that they're very healthy up front, except for Norris, so he's going to have to wait his turn. But if he continues to play well and doing the right things without the puck, and protecting the puck down low, he's never going to be this up and down, flying up the wing and type of player. He's got to grind it down low and use his body and get to that F3 bumper between the dots, because he's got such a great shot. And he's got to move his feet defensively. He has improved quite a bit defensively. Like last year, towards the end of the year, with protecting a 1-goal lead, if you went down to 2 lines, I was trusting him to put him out there. So that's come a long way since the COVID year, where systematically he was a mess. And so it's just it's a little bit of progress here and there. So I'm hoping he gets an opportunity at some point, but he's got to continue to build his game and be good. My message to the players this morning was, guys, the focus here is to get better and try and win a game Thursday. You can't worry about whether we lost last year, week 6-1. You can't worry about the Sens. They're going on their break. There's going to be no injuries, no recalls, just controllables. And I think that's the message, not only to the team, but a guy like Soko that's dying for a call-up.
Yeah, I can only, speaking as an offensive guy, I remember getting sent down to Iowa Chops the one year. And I said, what am I supposed to do here in this league? And I was putting up points, and I remember sitting down with Brian Burke, and he said, you can put up points in your sleep in this league. I'm not worried about that. You need to do all of these other things, and started listing out all the flaws. And a lot of them are relatable for Igor and I, moving your feet defensively and grinding and things like that. It wasn't about standing on the outside of the power play and getting your cookies. It was about refining all the little things that got you there. So he's in a tough spot, because you can put up points, and like you said, it looks great on AHL.com. But when you break things down, you need to be a very complete player to be getting those call ups. So it's tough, because he's such a likable guy from the media side of things. So I kind of want to see him.
Yeah, he's
get a chance too.
Yeah, and he's a pleasure to coach. He's just great personality in the locker room, and he's always smiling. And he gets frustrated when he doesn't score every night, but at the same time, we try to explain to him that it's not about points, it's about playing the right way. And for him, it's when Igor's playing well, he's a much better skater than people give him credit for, especially straightaway speed. And, when he's moving his feet, you can tell he's on. When he starts getting that methodical look to him, he's struggling, because then he looks like a slow hockey player. But when he's actually on the top of his game and moving, you know what? He's like a big freight train out there and playing with confidence. So, it's just a little bit of patience with him. And I know he's in his third year and he's got a point a game, going to the All-Star game this weekend. And those are all great accolades. But at the end of the day, as you know, Bobby, the NHL's tough, man. It's not an easy league. So there's no guarantees.
Right. One more player to ask about before I move on to some questions about you. And it was on the board earlier, which may have caught some people by surprise. Scott Sabourin is tied for the team lead in goals. And a lot of people may not look at Scotty and go, he's got 14 goals. Can you update his game and where it's been at this year? And is it a surprise to see him there tied for third in the team scoring with 23 points?
Well, a couple things. I mean, I certainly have come to appreciate Sabourin's game over the years. Quite frankly, when they first brought him on board, I wasn't a real proponent of the signing, because I'd seen him play in other spots and just felt like he was a fourth line right winger that could fight, but really couldn't help us in many areas. But, he's certainly, his game's come a long way, and he's a much better two-way player than a lot of people give him credit for. And the thing with him is he's so physical out there, and obviously he'll drop the gloves with anybody when he needs to, and he picks his spots way better now. And it's, as you guys know, there's not near as much fighting as there used to be, but he creates a lot of space out there for himself. And there's been a lot of opportunity this year as well, unlike maybe last year or the year before, where yes, we had our injuries and we had our recalls like every normal year. This year's been a year like I've never been through as a head coach, and so it's allowed him to play a lot more minutes and to see some power play time in that front. And he's formed some good chemistry. Last year he had some great chemistry there with Bishop and Wedman as a kind of our energy line. And this year he's been with Castles and Reinhardt quite a bit, and they've been arguably our most consistent line, since I put them together, because they're responsible defensively. If you look at our plus minuses, not that it means everything, but when you start seeing guys in the teens and all of a sudden Sabby's a +2 or a +4 or whatever he is, it tells you he's a decent player defensively as well. So it's a great story, and he's beat his career highs now. I think his career high was 12 back in his rookie year in Manchester. I think that might have been the year they won the Calder Cup as well. So, good on him. He's a fantastic guy in the room, and players love him, and he does a good job, of protecting the young kids. I mean, I remember one game here against, I think it was the Marlies, someone took a run at Ridly Greig, and, next thing you know, Sabby steps in, and hey, you can't touch that kid like that, so that's very, very valuable too, when we got so many young prospects on the team.
Funny you say plus minus. I'm going to get to that in just a sec. The other thing about Sabby, though, and I did watch him all summer, is he skated, I think, every day I saw him at the Sensplex. Like, he did work his butt off this summer. Full marks to him, because I know he really wanted to have a better year. So time now for Tale of the Tape, brought to you by Renfrew Pro Tape. We get to know a little bit more about our guest. And today, here they are, 15. The number of players you have coached that have played on the Ottawa Senators this season. That includes, by the way, Nikita Zaitsev. 311 AHL wins as a head coach. 592, which makes you just 8 games short of 600, if I added correctly. And minus 40. The worst plus minus of your career was a member of the Saginaw, Ohio Gears. So the reason I bring this up is because when a player is struggling and is in the minus 40 or whatever, do you refer back to this, or do you make sure they don't check out Hockey DB?
Well, they can find anything now. And, now if this ever gets out or anybody's even paying attention, Angus Crookshank is going to be now all over me, because I've been kind of chirping him because he's, 23 under, loves the game of golf. And last night we last night we had a U11 girls team come through our locker room. They're part of our all-in program, and it's a fantastic program that we've done here every year. And so the players and Justin Peters and I were representing the coaching staff, and so I introduced Heater as the captain and said a few words, and then I asked the girls to come up with 3 questions for my next guest, and I introduced Angus Crookshank as the only player in the AHL this year to have 23 points and minus 23. So I was giving it to him a little bit, trying to work on his defensive game, because the kid has such a knack for scoring and wanting to go to the blue paint. You love that about him, and we'll get there defensively with him. But now all of a sudden, yes, and the reason is, like, I was terrible. Like, I just wanted to score goals, and I wasn't very good defensively, and that's probably why I never even could make it in the American League, because just didn't think defense was an important part of it, and when you play on a bad team, those add up as well. It wasn't just me as a player, so I'll take the onus on it, but it's a good coaching tool sometimes as well.
Bobby would love you as a coach.
You're so good. Yeah. We're going, Manor, we're going straight downhill, man. we're going straight all the time. But if we're gonna lose 6-5 and I got to score 6, that's fine. I'll take the minuses to get the W any which way. But I was getting hung for 20 a year my last couple of years in Ottawa when we were pulling the goalie with 4 minutes left, and then they'd score, and then we'd pull them again 2 minutes later, and they put us back out, and I'm like, I had a good night. Now I'm -2. In 2.5 minutes. Perfect.
It's, you like to think it is, with all the analytics, and, we certainly, be honest with you, nowadays as a coach, we look at more at the analytics than the plus minus. It's a stat that coaches, we can use it to our advantage if we want to, because that's just how coaches are, right? If you don't want to put Bobby Ryan out at the end of the game with a 1-goal lead and he's -15, then you can use that to your advantage. But do I think it's an overrated stat? Yes, I do. But at the same time, if you have a guy, look at JBD, and he hasn't played as many games as some other guys, but he's a +7, and you have another defenseman that's maybe -15. I mean, that is quite significantly a difference, where if you got a bunch of guys on a bad hockey team that are -35 and one guy's -40, I mean, it's just a bad hockey team, right? So there's ways to look at it. Definitely ways to look at it.
Yeah. You played, I think, 13 different minor league teams. Do you have jerseys of all of them?
Well, yes, I do. I even have a jersey from where's the one spot there? No, I don't have one for Norfolk Admirals, because I pretty much only spent 3 games there. And John Brophy was the coach, and he shot a puck at me in the morning skate, hit me in the back of the head. And that night I said, okay, this is it. Like, this is not hockey, and I'll just quit hockey, because at that time I had my degree and I wanted to get into coaching at some point. But you know what? Another team said they'd take me, so I kept playing. But that's one team I do not have the jersey of, the Norfolk Admirals.
Whoa, Manor. I credit John Brophy for getting me the NHL. My first contract I signed was a 4-way deal, and the 4th team I could get sent down to was the Hampton Road Admirals. And John Brophy was waiting for you down there if you went down to the Cheese Toast. And so I think I was so scared to go down there, I made sure I stayed in the AHL and played well. Man, there was some. He was talk about old school, like playing for that guy. He always had a tough team, and I think they usually led the league in penalty minutes, if I'm not mistaken. Bro's teams, right?
Most of the kids today would not be able to play with John. I mean, the morning skate, like bag skates in the morning. Like, I'm talking like 2 drills, very few pucks, and just like skate like you would not believe. And he'd shoot pucks at players just to see how tough they were. And but you know what? He won a lot, got a lot of his players, and when he was a loyal man as well. Like, when you were on his team, and if he liked you, he took care of you. So good on him. But there's not a lot of today's player that would have survived the John Brophy.
Could you imagine Brof seeing a guy trying the Michigan?
Oh yeah.
he might beat him up himself.
I remember when he shot the puck at me. The captain skated by me and said, "Don't even look at him. He's just testing you right now. Just testing you." You know, it's like,
Oh boy.
I know you got to go here in a couple of minutes. So 311 wins, almost 600 games. What are you most proud of? Is it the wins or is it the games coached? And one of the reasons I say that is I remember asking players who played 1,000 games in the National Hockey League, and some of them say it's the number of games because somebody had to invite you to go play that many times. I'm just curious, if you've been around the bench a long time, is it 600 games? Does it mean a lot?
yeah, I think so because just it means longevity and obviously teams or organizations think you're doing a good job if you can coach that many games, you know, and so it's all about the grind, and you know I love every day of it, and you know hopefully at some point you just you know it's like players, right? It's they're playing to get to the National Hockey League regardless if you're 21 or 27 or 28, and it's the same in the coaching fraternity. You know, you just love to come to the rink every day, but you just keep doing it because you hope that the work will pay off, that you get the call one day. And I'm just thankful that, you know, I've been very fortunate. I've only worked with 2 organizations at the American League level. So I guess they continue to think I'm doing a good job of developing their prospects. And ultimately, that's what it's about as well, right?
Yep. And you've done an amazing job. Two last questions for me. What do you do on your bus rides? What does Troy Mann do all the time? You can't look video all the time and you can't nap the entire time. So what do you do?
You know what? I just, geez, I don't do very much of anything. I'm kind of boring on the bus. You know, back in the day, we used to watch movies all the time. We don't even do that anymore because everybody's got their own iPads or phones. So I like to listen to the, 32 Thoughts or listen to music. I tend to do a lot of work and get a lot done on that, and I can't sleep on the bus. So I'll watch the full game and do that kind of thing. And our trips are pretty good too, where it's not, there's the odd trip, but most of our trips are like 3-4 hours. So, by the time you get your work done and maybe get on and listen to a 32 Thoughts or get on Twitter for a few minutes, you're there anyway. Right. So, it's not nothing too crazy or fun to talk about, to be honest with you.
You could have just said our show just for the hell of it. Well, you could have maybe just, I don't want to tell you what to say, but geez.
Yeah. You guys are next now. Now that you've had me on, like when we go to Cleveland next week, which is the longest trip of the year, I'll definitely be tuning into you guys.
There we go.
Perfect. Last question I have, but it's actually from someone else in the chat. It's from Alfie's Mullet. I'd like to know which Sens prospect Troy is most excited to coach in the future. I know you don't know who they're all coming and whatnot, and if they're going to be sent to the A, but is there someone in particular you have your eye on that you're maybe get a chance to coach?
Well, I'll even give you 2. The one kid, the Clevin kid, if he signs, like I'm really we're loving to get our hands on him as that big left shot D. You see him getting suspended again, and I just think, at this level, if he does end up in the American League, there's a lot of tools there to work with. Now we'll see what happens. Up front, I would probably say the Boucher kid, because I got to know obviously him at the rookie tournament and really enjoyed coaching him. This kid just loves the game and and he's so like physical out there and wants to be a player. And just the 3 or 4 days that we were around him in Buffalo this past September, I really enjoyed that. And, he's a kid that actually now Ottawa 67s are obviously very, very good this year. So we probably won't see him this year, but he'd be another guy. Those 2 probably of the guys that, are graduating or turning pro here come September.
Fair enough. Nice. Good answers. I know Tyler Cleven's the interesting one I know they like to keep guys near the end of the year like they did with Jake Sanderson just to have him around for the culture. But I know you'd like to get your hands on him because he looks like he's going to be an absolute star.
Yeah, I follow all the UND stuff just because of just because we've had a lot of prospects over my tenure in
Yeah.
Belleville, and sometimes, not that you think you're going to be getting every one of them, because obviously Pinto never came down, but I knew Pinto was maybe a possibility, and then you got JBD, and now you got the Clevin kid, and so it's you're always following those guys as they get closer and closer to turning pro.
We're gonna let you go because I know you got to get out of here, but I just appreciate your time, Troy. You've always been so good to us, and so we do hope. And I didn't ask the NHL question because I don't think it's fair, but we do hope to see you behind the bench of an NHL team at some point here very soon, my friend.
Well, thanks, guys. I
Great.
appreciate
Thank
you
you.
having me on, and anytime you want to talk hockey, I love to do it. So I appreciate you thinking of me and getting me on.
Thanks, Troy.
Delete that other podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
I will. You guys are my number one now, guys.
There we go.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
Coach.
See you, boys.
There goes Troy Mann, head coach of the Belleville Senators, and just a super good person. I just a huge fan of Troy and what he's been able to do.
Yeah.
It's not easy to coach in the A. You guys both played there. It's results oriented, but at the end of the day, the results are when you send up players who can play in the National Hockey League, and they've had challenge because when you're not playing very well in the NHL, you look to the A to see if there's some answers, and they just haven't had a lot to work with. And good for Troy Mann. He's been phenomenal.
Especially now, Wally, because today's athlete is wired a lot differently than guys in the years past. And you heard Troy make the comment there. A lot of guys wouldn't have been able to play for John Brophy, but it's true. So it's the same as an NHL coach. You're a coach half the time, and you're a psychologist the other part. You heard him talk to Sokolov about not getting, and he's got to have a lot of those conversations because it's a grind. Like I always say, the AHL, 1 year it's like dog years. They should count as not 6. We'll just say they should count as 3 because you're just 3 and 3s and you're grinding, and it's he's done a hell of a job down there. The guys he's developed, and we're seeing some of them firsthand.
Yeah,
I wanted to ask, but I just we ran out of
so
time.
highly of him. Yeah, go for it. Sorry, go ahead.
It was whether he got to hold the Condor from Bakersfield because he coached there for a year. I just want to know if the bird came and went on his arm, but I didn't get it. I ran out of time.
Hey,
that would have been good.
Hey, Bobby, I'm trying to remember. Did you play games in the Swiss League?
Nope.
Yeah, so
he went there.
5 practices.
You had 5 practices. Okay, there's a team, the Geneva Servets, and they actually have. It's not an eagle, but it's this giant bird that a guy. But when the game starts, with huge wings, comes flying down from the top rafters and lands on this guy's head. It's
come on,
yeah, Geneva, yeah, bird. And I was like, big claws, it's coming down. I'm ducking on the blue line. The Geneva Servette. So I imagine Servette is, I guess, French for some kind of bird. I guess I'll have to Google that one, Wally. But yeah, almost got attacked by a. Yeah, you got it. I see your brain's turning there.
In addition, Sure Can, a bald eagle, opens every home game by flying throughout the arena.
There you go.
It's nuts. I
see some different things in those leagues over there.
He's Europe's first living animal to partake in an ice hockey game opening ceremony.
All right.
The more you know. Okay, so let's move on. Before we do that, a couple of sponsor reads, and then I'm going to talk about the Sens playing in Montreal tonight as they get ready to head to the break. BEI, Bonnechere Excavating Inc. They are the leaders in heavy civil general contracting. They are helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. Look for them for equipment rentals or aggregate or topsoil sales. All the stuff you need in the Ottawa Valley. Give them a call, 613-432-1120, BonnechereExcavating.com. And as we told you yesterday, our good friends at Montana's are giving away a $25 gift card, I guess the term is these days. Go on our social media, either Twitter or on Instagram. You can find all of the rules. You just have to like, and I think you have to tag a friend, and we'll do the draw on Thursday for that. And tonight is $5 tacos. I'm not supposed to say taco. I got to call it a taco. Taco night. So if you're looking, head to Montana's $5 tacos. There we go. They also have the comfort menu, which is phenomenal. Okay, check them out. Montana's Bar and Grill. It is Sens going to look for to tie their highest winning streak of the season at 4 games as they're in Montreal tonight. Jake Allen gets to start in goal. He's been horrendous. Claude Giroux is the first star of the week. Everything's pointing towards the Ottawa Senators. Is this a trap game, Yorkie?
I don't think so. I think the Senators are just on one of those rolls right now. They're not thinking trap. They're not thinking there's going to be a letdown. I think I know we got to do our pick'ems here. I don't see a letdown coming from Ottawa. Last game before the All-Star break, everyone talks about that, but I see them going in and rolling. It's business as usual for these guys. Everything's going right for them, and Forsberg, I hear, is going to start again. He's been really good lately, and that's the key for the Senators. When their goalies are playing like they are right now, they're in a real good space. So I don't see a letdown coming whatsoever. Montreal, I can see it on their part. Not a lot of things going right. They probably can't wait. They probably can't wait to get to the All-Star break, regroup. I know they're probably going to say, right? Like they can't wait. They've got their tickets are booked. They're thinking about where they're going. So, man, it's I don't like their headspace.
Let's be honest though. Yorkie, that last game before the All-Star break, every single guy on that ice is going, my tarp's going to be off on a beach in about 24 hours.
Oh, yeah.
So
It's a battle.
It's a battle. They're going to be, the boys are going to be running push-up pyramids tonight, right? After the game, but at the same time. There'll be zero letdown from the Sens. I think they're going to go in and, just like you said, they're going to roll them.
Yeah. Nick Paul, by the way, posted, I think just yesterday or the day before, on a private jet heading out on a vacation, right? With, I think Brendan Hagel was in the cockpit. Oh yeah. So people are getting excited to head out and to all places. Yorkie, you wouldn't have played with the bye week, right? You were done before the bye week. Like, how jealous are you of that particular thing they agreed to?
Yeah, I don't know. I had my fun when I played Wally. It's, you know what, life's too short to be jealous. I was never shortchanged on having fun. So I will tell you, I always looked forward to the All-Star break and where I was going. So I know exactly what these guys are thinking right now. But so no, I don't know when did that come in? When did the bye week come in? I don't even know when it came in.
Wasn't it?
Was it the 12-13 lockout, or was it after that? It might have even been after that.
I feel like it was after that, because I only had 1 or 2, maybe even 3 bye weeks. Like I didn't really experience a ton of them, because I remember popping out to Idaho and then going down to Tyler Johnson's in Tampa Bay a few times, but that was about it. So I didn't get it. Yeah, and it's kind of a weird thing. I mean, the All-Star break was more than good enough for 4 quick days. Didn't need any more.
Do you want to go to the All-Star game or go to a beach? Because did you go to one All-Star game?
Oh, yeah, I had to go to Columbus, Ohio. How did you? No, thanks. I remember getting on, because I had actually got a plane, and then Hoffman was there for the Young Skills or whatever it was. And he's like, how much does this suck when we're getting on the plane to go to Columbus and we're looking over at the runway and Erik Karlsson and the boys are getting on different planes, going different places. And I was like, yeah, we're going to be on the ice in Columbus tomorrow. Great. Yeah, thanks.
Oh, boy. What did you have to do skills, Bobby? Did you have to do one?
Yeah, I had to do what did I do? Oh, I did accuracy shooting. And generally that's my good, like I was always very good at that in the Ottawa skills competition, but I couldn't hit the net there. I was just high and right on all my, I think I went 4 for 8 or something. It was not a good showing.
Yeah. Disappointing. You let all the Sens fans down.
Yep.
Hey, all right, we'll get to.
I played with Andrzej Kopitar, and we're obviously real good friends. And I played with him, and he's like, "They're going to give you the Selke tonight because I'm the only person that doesn't have a point in an All-Star game." I was like, "Well, I mean, sorry, man. I had a couple. Not my fault. You can't finish."
All right, let's go to the Batano lock of the day with Ottawa. By the way, Anton Forsberg will start tonight. We'll tie him with Robin Leonard for 8th all-time in the Ottawa Senator list at 76. And by the way, Bobby gets to pick first, but there's only one pick here, Bobby. I don't know how to will you to pick this, but make sure you make the right pick. The lock of the day, obviously, the Senators are the favorites in this one.
Yeah, I don't think it's a hard one. You have to take the Sens here all day. Montreal's horrendous. The Sens have been good. They're starting to score 5-on-5. Well, they had an explosion last weekend, obviously. So, some of those issues are past them. They win every category for me. So I think it's a no-brainer. I'm taking the Sens.
Good for you. And Yorkie, you were allowed to take the same team.
Yeah. No, I'm doing the same. I kind of hinted to it earlier. No brainer here. I'm taking Ottawa. They're rolling. Forsberg's rolling. What's the over under on this, Wally?
I think it's 6.5.
Yeah, I would probably. I don't know. Forsberg's pretty good. No, I'll it's still probably going to be under.
It's Jake Allen.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take the over.
Yeah. All right.
Anyways, I'm taking the Sens.
I think Forsberg's going to pitch a shutout and at worst give up one. So I got to take the under. It's going to be a 4-1 kind of game is my guess.
That's what I think too, but Wally's trying to convince me.
Really?
Yeah.
So here's my question, because you guys are both, you understand the All-Star break. Is anybody going to play any defense for Anton Forsberg to get that shutout?
Of course they will.
Yeah.
The guys are pros. At the end of the day, we can joke here. Yeah, they have their tickets booked. The guys are pros. And I will say, this team, one thing, even when they do lose, they usually show up. This team usually shows up. They usually work hard. They don't cheat. They don't cheat the game. And Claude Giroux, like we talked about him, like I'll tell you, he's going to be in the room telling the guys, being an older guy, boys, we got one game. Let's not start this game. Let's make sure we start this game on time. So a guy like Giroux is going to make sure the boys are ready. They're going to be firing. I see no reason why the Senators aren't ready to play this game. Play it, get it done, and then go off to everywhere you're going.
Yep. Get on that train happy. Have a couple of cocktails on the train ride home. You'll be good.
Yeah, Wally, there's nothing worse.
Yeah.
But listen, imagine this. Like, here's what they're going to say. Guys, could you imagine? They won't say this because you're never going to say what happens if we lose. But if you lose this game and head off to the All-Star break losing to this game, you're going to feel like shit. So that will be motivation as well. Heading in happy, and like Bobby says, as soon as the game's over, you're celebrating, and then it just extends your celebration that much longer. So, no, 100% they'll be ready.
All right. Last question. So, both of you, to answer this one, favorite All-Star destination spot that you went to?
I always liked going home to Idaho just for a couple quick days just to reset. I love Idaho. There's no better place in the world. So we never did the family trips with, 4 or 5 other couples. I was always just about getting home and resetting and getting ready for that half. So I would always go check in and did a couple other ones, but nothing that was great. You are kind of limited with time. Like back then, right? Now these guys got 5, 6 full days.
It's like 3 days.
We didn't always have that. Yeah, it was quick, right? You waste a day flying if you don't get a plane. So I would always just get a plane and get myself home to Idaho for a couple days.
Yeah, I did. I'd always try when I was in Anaheim. Yeah, I'd do a quick one to Vegas. Southwest Airlines or right to Vegas for 3 days, and it's so good. Actually went to Vegas once from Ottawa. Went with Damian Rhodes, Wally. Rhodesy and his wife at the time and my wife, but I took an absolute beating at the craps table, and I've never played that game again. I'll tell you what, my beating was so bad that the place I stayed at, the Bellagio, actually comped my next 2 trips. So that's how bad the beating was. Hey, come on back, Mr. York. We'd like you back here again. Yeah, sure. Here's some tickets to the shows. No problem. Yeah, just make sure you come back. So it's craps is. I'm sitting at the craps table. I'm doing everything Rhodesy does. How do you play this game? Because I was always a blackjack guy. Made the mistake, and of course in Vegas, anyone that's ever been there, they feed you booze for a reason to make sure you don't make good decisions. So it's just nonstop.
Just consistently doubling down.
Yep. So, anyways,
All right, boys. No vacations for us. We will see you on Thursday. Thanks again to Troy Mann for showing up. Fantastic chat with the Belleville Senator head coach. See you two on Thursday. Thanks for watching.
See you, boys.
See you guys. Good night.